Welcome to this Doc Management video series installment, QuickBooks Integration. Doc Management comes with QuickBooks Desktop integration built in. All you need to know is how to configure it for your use. This video will walk you through the various steps required within Doc Management as well as QuickBooks Desktop to get things running. Go to the Config Manager and select Load from Cloud. Once the list loads, you will see an entry labeled QuickBooks Configuration. Select that item to preview it in the Config Manager. Once the configuration loads, you will see some instructions at the top and lists of the items that will be loaded when you import this config. Click the green Load this config button and then click OK to load all the items into your system. The next step is to add a specific user that will be responsible for communicating with QuickBooks. Pick a username that makes sense so you will know it by looking at it. In this case, we are choosing QuickBooks for our username. Set a password and remember this for a later step. Select Security Properties and choose the QuickBooks team from the list which was imported from the config we loaded earlier. Now select Integration Properties and enter the full path to the QuickBooks file you're working with. Save the user, then go back to Integration Properties and click the Download button next to the QuickBooks file setting. This will download a file that the QuickBooks Web Connector needs to connect to Doc Management. We also need some users for handling the data entry and the approvals in our workflow. For now, add your user to the QuickBooks Indexing team. This will add to your work triggers that need to be used for indexing and approval for testing. Now, we need to start working inside of QuickBooks. Load QuickBooks and open the company file that we used when setting up the Doc Management user. Make sure to log in using an administrative account. Once QuickBooks loads, go to the Company menu, select Users, then select Set up Users and Roles. Add a user into QuickBooks that we will use to connect with Doc Management. This username does not have to be the same as the one from Doc Management. In fact, we normally use Doc Management as the username here so we know which system this talks with. Add the user, set its password, then select Full Access from the list of roles. Now we have a user on each side that we need to make the connection complete. We just need to tie it all together with the QuickBooks Web Connector. Start the QuickBooks Web Connector by selecting the File menu and choosing Update Web Services. Once it loads, click the Add an Application button and select the QBW file that we downloaded from the user screen in Doc Management. This provides the QuickBooks Web Connector with the URL to the Doc Management server, the user with which to log into Doc Management, and the full path of the QuickBooks file to use for its work. You may receive an error message when loading the first time. This is normal, and you can continue by clicking Yes. Next, you will see an SSL certificate screen, ensuring that you are working with the Doc Management server securely. If you do not get this screen, you should stop and contact support. Next, we will see a screen that asks you to choose a QuickBooks user and to use the access mode when communicating between Doc Management and QuickBooks. Select the Yes Always Allow Access Even if QuickBooks is not running option. When prompted, confirm that you wish to give the new application access to QuickBooks. Then choose the QuickBooks user you just added. In our case, that was the user named Doc Management. Click the Continue button and confirm your settings once more by clicking Done. Once the application shows up in the QuickBooks Web Connector list, you should turn off the Auto Run option for testing purposes. We will turn this back on once everything is tested and configured. Check on the checkbox in the far left and then enter the password for the user we added to Doc Management and click Yes when asked to save the password. We need to synchronize information from QuickBooks to Doc Management in order to provide vendor lists, customer lists, GL codes, and classes, and to the users doing the indexing. Click the Entry option in the Doc Management toolbar. Find the QuickBooks Sync record type and click on it. If the status field is not set to be synced already, then set that value. Turn on the Workflow checkbox on the bottom left and click Save Record. This will not only save the record, but will also route it to be processed. Now that the sync record is there, you can go to the QuickBooks Web Connector and tell it to run. Load the QuickBooks Web Connector to make sure to check on the leftmost checkbox for the doc management application. Click the Update Selected button to have the Web Connector check for doc management workflow and start synchronizing all the lookup data. You will see the green progress bar in the Web Connector screen move as the sync happens. While the sync is running, you can go to Doc Management and search in the QuickBooks record type to see the information as it is being synchronized. As you can see, new records are being added as we watch. To test the QuickBooks invoice process, we need to add a new QuickBooks Invoices record. This will add a test invoice to Doc Management that we can route through the system, index, then send to QuickBooks during the next Web Connector session. Click the Entry option on the Doc Management toolbar. Find the QuickBooks Invoices record type and click on it. You do not need to add any data to this screen. Just turn on the Workflow checkbox on the bottom left and click Save Record. This will save a blank invoice into Doc Management and route it to be indexed. Once the save is complete, you will be taken to an indexing screen. You will receive an error message on the bottom of the screen alerting you to the fact that there are no viewable images in the invoice. That is okay for now, since we are just testing. On the left side of the screen are the index fields. These represent the header index values. Enter values using autocomplete is available from the values we synchronized from QuickBooks. You can use a % if you do not know any of the values in the autocomplete fields. Complete the header values before continuing. Next, enter the line item values. Each line in the invoice will be a line item here. Customer Job Info is supported, but if you do not need it, you can remove it from the record type definition. The values in the amount column must match the total amount of the invoice to continue. Once you are done indexing, click the Complete button at the top of the screen. This completes the indexing and sends the invoice to await transfer into QuickBooks. Load the QuickBooks Web Connector and make sure to check on the leftmost checkbox for the Doc Management application. Now, click the Update Selected button to have the Web Connector check for Doc Management workflow and start transferring the invoice. Once it is complete, the bill will show up in QuickBooks. The next step in QuickBooks is to pay the bill. We will check the bill in the Pay Bill screen and click the Pay Selected Bills button. In the next screens, go through the motions of printing the checks. For testing, we use a virtual printer that prints the checks to an image file. Once you are done printing the checks, go back to the QuickBooks Web Connector and have it run one more time. This will sync the check number and check date back into Doc Management. If you load this invoice record in Doc Management or refresh it as we have done here, you will now see the check number and check date have been populated back into the system. Thank you for your interest in the Doc Management QuickBooks integration.